High school football season is here, and Sports on Tap has you covered all season long with in-depth coverage and analysis. You won't want to miss our special football shows each Monday of the high school season from 7:30 to 9 p.m. Catch recaps of all the games, interviews with local players and coaches, and hear if your team is playing in the game of the week. For the best high school football coverage, turn to Sports on Tap. Every Monday from 7:30 to 9 p.m. Sports on Tap, part of the NEO Sports Insiders Network.
Time to play the game. Time to play the game. It's all about the game and how you play it. All about control, and if you can take it, all about your debt. And if you can pay it, it's all about pay. And who's gonna make it?
And welcome to Sports on Tap. It's Sports on Tap's Ohio High School football coverage, and it's brought to you by Z's Cream and Bean. We're live from Studio J in Brunswick, Ohio. I want to welcome everyone for listening. Guys, it's that time of year. I'm Rob Trauma. We have Sean Duffy, Josh Jeffy. Ed Dick is out on assignment, but might be calling in or coming in on the show. Guys, welcome back to our another fun year ahead of our Ohio High School football coverage.
Year number 2 is upon us, and it's very exciting. I'm very much looking forward to this season coming up, and very much looking forward. I'm trying to get all the
He's so excited.
Yeah, the fluff out now before we get really going. So
That's
but
right.
I'm looking forward to working with you guys again on the high school football season.
And to let everyone know, we're going to cover the Southwestern Conference, which we've covered last year, the Suburban League, the National and American Division.
What?
And also the Greater Cleveland Conference.
Indeed.
Which is a lot of Medina County teams and other teams from the area.
In the Greater Cleveland area.
That's right. Imagine that.
Imagine that.
But we had fun last year covering these teams. A lot of exciting things happening last year. And looking ahead, we have a lot more action coming your way with our games of the week, which we will inform you about at the end of our show. But right now we're going to preview some teams, and also you can check out our podcast on neosportsinsiders.com as well.
We also got confirmation from said Ed Dick. Said he will be calling in later in the show to talk about the Suburban League National Division later on, so we'll look forward to that. Yeah.
I mean, a lot of exciting teams. We'll see what's going to happen with players that have left that are going to be filling some roles. We talked to some of the head coaches in our conferences, but right now, Josh Jeffy is going to start with the Greater Cleveland Conference.
Yes,
Josh,
one
take
of one of the toughest conferences in the state of Ohio. Obviously, all Division I teams. Now, we talked to on our show over a couple weeks ago, that Division I is now going back to the 4-region format instead of the 2 that they had this year. So the Greater Cleveland Conference is basically broken up in half. There's 8 teams in the conference. 4 teams are in Region 1, 4 teams are in Division 2. I'm going to start with Region 1 first, and you're going to pretty much start with the cream of the crop. You got Mentor, coached by Steve Trevisano, 8-4 last year, although had a very tough schedule. Some good victories, though. But they are returning 8 starters on each side of the ball, so look for them to have a really strong team again this year, as usual. And 4 of those starters on offense are on the offensive line, and that's really going to help junior quarterback Tadas Tatarunas, who spent time a lot last year in the My Weekly MVP race. 6'4", junior quarterback, going to have really good numbers. They have 3 really good veteran receivers in that receiving core that will really help him. Defense, again, is going to be a strong suit for the Mentor Cardinals. So, again, this is the cream of the crop team in the Greater Cleveland Conference. Guys, thoughts on Mentor?
Well, I think we're going to hear Tatarunas' name
I really think you just like saying that name, Josh. I mean,
it's a great name.
It's a fun name to say.
It took me a whole season to learn how to say it, but that's okay.
So now you have good practice.
Yes, it's good. And speaking of Mentor, they open up the season this Friday against a team we covered a little bit last year, Massillon Washington Tigers. And then they have a really tough schedule. Their non-conference games go as Massillon Washington, at St. Ignatius, and St. Xavier. So they really are starting with that. Second team in the conference from Region 1 is the Solon Comets, led by Coach Jim McQuaid. bringing back 9 starters on the offensive side of the ball. Probably one of the most important ones is Virginia recruit, the tackle Chris Glazer. He's coming back. One of the key losses, though, is quarterback Johnny Mooney. Johnny Mooney led the team last year. He was led them to their playoff run. But so they really need to see who can step in and fill his shoes. 7 returners on defense, including all-district safety Joe Bubonics, who is thought to going to be taking over also at the quarterback position. So that's going to be interesting to see what happens with Solon.
Yeah, Solon's a team last year that had a lot of success and was right at the top of their division, along with Menor, who, you look at Menor, they were 7-3 overall last year, but a lot of those came early on in the season with their tough schedule. And Solon ended up 9-3, along with a Euclid team that was 8-2. So you look at Solon this year, they were 6-1 in conference. I'm sure they're bringing back, like you said, some guys back, and they're going to be
very strong.
Yeah, They're going to be an impressive team that's going to be right at the top again. So another very impressive team to watch out for.
And the start of their season is somewhat tough too. They open up at Aurora, then they go they host Twinsburg, and then week 3 Stone Monroe Falls. So those are pretty tough games that they have to start the season. Next we have the Euclid Panthers. 2015 they went 10-3, made the playoffs. Coached by Jeff Rotsky, coming into his second year. We all know him, very enthusiastic coach, really starting to turn around that program. Not bringing back many players, though. Only 2 starters on offense and 4 on defense. 6'4" quarterback Noah Mitchell will be leading the Panthers this year. And then on defense, Terrell Lee and Jalen Nolden will lead defense. Both players last year all GCC. So those are some good leaders for them. Now, guys, Euclid is one of those teams that, we have to see how the loss of those players are going to hurt them. I mean, there is a really good playoff team last year, but again, only returning 2 starters on offense, that's good. That could possibly hurt you.
That's going to be a mountain to overcome for any team. I think, especially when you only have 2 starters coming back on offense, you really have to count on the fact that those underclassmen paid attention, understood the roles that the guys they were following, and really, step into the role and say, hey, okay, now it's my turn to show what we can do and keep essentially that momentum that, like you said, Euclid had a really good season last year. You'd hate for that, that senior class to graduate, and then there's that steep drop off from when from last year to this. But yeah, that's definitely an interesting storyline to see if Euclid can continue, building upon that success and continue to remain a force in that not only in the conference but in the division, because like you said, it's now ultra competitive now that they've gone to 4. Believe it or not, that you only 8 teams make it out of each region. So
yes.
now your margin for error is that much less.
Yeah, I mean, how are these guys going to step in on offense? I mean, and if they do lose a game, how are they going to come back from that? Because, some of these teams are going to play some pretty tough teams early on. It depends how these young players are going to bounce back. And I think they'll be fine. They'll just have to step in and fill some big roles.
And Euclid's first 3 games non-conference, Glenville, Aurora, and Willoughby South. So, again, before getting into conference play, some really tough non-conference
It'll be a good test
games.
for that young team.
Next, the final team in the GCC out of Region 1 is the Shaker Heights Red Raiders. Last year finished 3-7, started the season 3-0. Unfortunately, lost their next 7, but that's not too bad. They got some good returners coming back. 5 on offense, 5 on defense, coached by Jarvis Gibson Jr. Quarterback Jamie Demukes will be leading the Red Raiders at quarterback. And then linebacker Jalen Garner for Shaker Heights has offers already on the table from the Bowling Green Falcons and the Cincinnati Bearcats. So he's going to be the anchor on that defensive side of the ball. They open up against Skyline, John Adams, and at Bedford for the Shaker Heights Red Raiders.
Well, Shaker Heights last year, they started off really hot to start the season and kind of went on a downward slope. But, I think that's really good experience for them. And I think they'll bounce back this year. A lot of these teams in this conference is really tough to begin with. They're going to beat each other up, and who's going to be healthy at the end of the season. But Shaker Heights, I mean, they were a team that started off. I can't even remember. I thought they were 3 or 4-1.
3-0. Yep, they started off 3-0
to start the season. So they were impressive, and then they started
got into conference play.
Yeah,
I mean, that's all. I mean, unfortunately, like Rob just mentioned, this conference is a meat grinder. Whoever can survive it the best has the best shot of making it into a very deep playoff run. Shaker was very impressive early, but once they got into conference play, and that's where the rubber essentially meets the road there.
Ooh,
nice. you want to be able to continue that momentum. What happened was they ran into teams like Menor, they ran into teams like Euclid, and you just talked about them, Josh. I'm sorry. Who's your second?
Menor, there's
Solon. Sorry, Solon. Yeah, that especially I think they ran. If I'm not mistaken, they ran into them early, right after that 3-0 start. So that really derails the season, kind of snowballs from there. So a team like, Shaker really needs to kind of learn from that adversity and move forward.
Now, moving on to the second half of the conference, the Region 2 teams in the Greater Cleveland Conference. We're going to start with probably my team to watch this year in the GCC, and that's Elyria. Last year, 6-5, didn't make the playoffs, coached by Kevin Fell. 8 players on offense are returning, led by running back Chris Atkinson. 1,300 yards last year, 17 touchdowns. He's going to be one of the key big players to watch in this conference this year. 6 guys returning on defense. Guys, Elyria, like I said, is the team to watch in the conference to really possibly win the conference and make a deep run into the playoffs. They are looking to make the playoffs for the 5th straight year. They're going to be a very tough team, but Chris Atkinson is the guy to watch, one of them in this conference on the offensive end.
Yeah, Chris Atkinson, he's a quick player that just makes big play after big play. And you look at Elyria's offense and defense, they're very quick guys that get all around the ball. They make plays, and they're just athletic. So, if you're nervous going into a game, you got to bring your A game with Elyria. And they're going to be pretty tough to begin with because I know Avon Lake faces Elyria, I believe, in its first game in non-conference. And Elyria plays some tough teams going in to the season.
Yeah, Elyria starts the season with Avon Lake, Lorain, and Shaw. So
Lorain, another team that's going to be tough for Elyria, but good tests early on. And they're going to be a good team. Elyria's going to be a really good team.
Another team that I think we have to make mention and keep an eye on is the Medina Bees, coached by Dan Sutherland. 4-6 last year, although they started to really improve towards the end of the year, led by Jimmy Daw. 1,600 total yards last year, 21 touchdowns. They're returning 9 players on offense, 9 players on defense, including on the defensive end safety Nick Pankow and linebacker Chris Fryer. With those 2 guys, along with Daw on offense, Medina has the makings of a playoff caliber team. Now they're going to have to really play more consistently. There was a lot of ups and downs last year, but again, they started to really improve towards the end of last year. Looking for Medina to possibly make a good run this year.
I think the thing with Medina that we saw last year was right towards once they got out of non-conference play, as soon as they got into conference play, they tend to hit that wall a little bit when they ran up against teams maybe that were more familiar with Medina, that understood how to play them. I think Medina needs to be able to overcome that and rely on those players that you just mentioned, Josh, to lead them down the stretch, because you're right, Medina has all the makings for a team that could, A, make some noise in the conference, but B, can really represent the conference in the playoffs, but they need that resolve to do so going forward.
Yeah, and exactly. And Medina has the opportunity to really start off strong. They open up with the first 3 non-conference games, Lakewood, Kenston, and Wadsworth. So they have the ability to, again, start strong as they did last year. They did start the season with victories against Lakewood, Wadsworth, and Elyria. And then how I mentioned last year how they somewhat improved towards the end of the last year. They ended the season with Euclid and Solon, but the last game against Solon, they did get beat 49-14, but they showed signs of stuff that they can build on, and that's what they really need to look to do coming into this year. Another team, Greater Cleveland Conference, Region 2, the Strongsville Mustangs, coached by Larry Laird. Unfortunately for all of us here at SOT, they lost one of the big pieces of their offense. Running back Zach.
God.
Yes, he has moved on. But the Mustangs are returning some key players on offense and defense, looking to improve on a 5-5 record, which, now with these different regions now instead of 2, with 4 regions now, that might help them depending on how they start the season. Obviously conference play is there's no easy game, but they do start the season at Avon. They play Hudson, and then they will host Brush before they start getting into their conference.
Yeah, and they started off a little bit slow. They lost to Avon at home last year, and Avon's a really good team. So, they have a tough non-conference schedule, but Larry Laird, I think each year make some progress. There's a lot of talent there in Strongsville, and we saw from Zach Kahn. I mean, a great running game at Strongsville. They had some quarterback issues because of injuries, but that's really tough to withstand, especially when one quarterback goes down, then another. There's a lot of talent. They like to use their tight ends a lot. Larry Laird came from Avon Lake over here and actually coached the Medina Bees at one point, and he was successful there. Then he went back to Avon Lake and came to Strongsville. So he knows talent, and he knows what he's doing, and he just has to build a little bit with this program. And Strongsville, I think, can really – each year they've gotten a little better. What are they going to do? Are they going to take that next step this year? That's going to be one key to watch here in the GCC.
And one thing that I want to kind of build off what Rob said was, last year they were able to mask those concerns at quarterback because they had such a strong running game with Kahn. It's going to be interesting to see now that maybe they've gotten some stability at the quarterback position, if they can really come through and find that kind of bell cow back that Kahn was for them. And it's going to be interesting for the first few weeks to see who takes up that crown essentially, or that title, and decides they're going to take that job and run with it. No pun intended. But
final team out of the 8 in the GCC is the Brunswick Blue Devils, coming off of a 3-7 season. In our last episode of SOT, Sports on Tap, at Z's Cream and Bean, we had Coach Luke Beal on. And last year when we had him on before the 2015 season, one of the key issues was them not returning any starters. 22 new starters on both offense and defense. This year, they're returning pretty much everyone. So it's going to be interesting to see year 2 of their offense. We talked to them about how they totally revamped the offense. They've got some really experienced coaches in there now. Let's see, just as the case in Strongsville, if Brunswick can take that leap to a possible playoff run. They open up the season, same as they did last year. They are hosting Highland. We'll talk about that a little later. They go to Austintown Fitch, and they go to Brecksville Broadview Heights. So those are also tough games. But if they can somehow get through those, get into conference play, who knows? One thing we learned from Coach Beal in this conference, nothing is certain. Every team comes out to play each other every game, and there's no easy game. So we'll be talking a little bit about Brunswick more later at the end of the show, as we are going to be there this Friday as the Highland Hornets will travel to Brunswick Blue Devils, as we have that as our game of the week for week number 1.
One thing I'm really interested in seeing is how, like you mentioned, the leap, and how, as the year progressed, Brunswick got better every single game. And now that they've had a year to, A, get some experience with those younger kids, and B, get the system installed so where now they're not learning it, they're just perfecting the execution of it. And I hope, and I think Coach Beal kind of mentioned that we're at the point now where we're not installing an offense. We're at the point now where we're refining it. So you hope that all those returning starters and the fact that they understand the system, especially from the offensive side of the ball, can make them, instead of thinking and playing, just to play. And that's the hope. And I think Blue Devil fans, I know the ones in this room, may be pleasantly surprised with how Brunswick maybe takes that next step forward.
Yeah, I think this offense is in its second year now, and I think players will start getting used to it a little more. We'll see in week 1.
The key player to look out for is, and they were led by him last year, is Alex Gillespie. He's going to be the go-to guy. They're going to be leaning a lot on him. And it's up to him and the rest of that Brunswick team to really take that leap forward.
Indeed.
Indeed.
Well, we're still got to get into regular season form here.
I know.
So
this is a preseason game.
We're getting with it.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah.
No doubt. Trying to, at least.
That's right.
There we go.
There it is.
There, the drums.
That never gets old.
Nope. It's good to hear it back.
And now, it's time for a break. All right, we're Sports on Tap. It's our Ohio high school football coverage. We're part of the NEO Sports Insiders Network, brought to you by Z's Cream and Bean. When we come back, it's the Southwestern Conference and the Suburban League. All coming up. We're Sports on Tap, part of the NEO Sports Insiders Network.